Good morning, welcome to Daily Current Affairs Analysis of Shankar IAS Academy. Today we are going to discuss the current affairs of 30th of September 2025. Before going into the discussion, do not forget to subscribe to this channel so that you get daily updates on relevant current affairs for UPSC, and also comment if you have any doubts or queries, and please do share this video to your friends. And I'm so excited to inform you all that we are starting a weekend batch for the pre-storming, the most trusted test series, and it is starting on 16th of October 2025. If you are giving your attempt in 2026, please make use of this opportunity. It is available in all the branches. The first topic would be the semiconductors, the constitution for the semiconductors drafted for the first time. Then we'll be discussing the 100 years of the top recruiter of our country, UPSC. And then we'll be discussing what is the communication between maize plants and how this communication is helping to increase the pest resistance. And finally, we'll be discussing World Heart Day and what are the do's and don'ts to maintain a good, healthy heart. And finally, we'll discuss certain topics which focuses specifically on preliminary examination. The first discussion is about the semiconductor. The first Semiconductor Constitution Summit was held in Hyderabad on September 27 and 28. And what is this about this T-chip Semicon Constitution Summit, where it took place? What are the global roadmap for India's future with respect to semiconductors? We will be discussing now. So what is the purpose of the summit? So it is the first ever semiconductor constitution drafted and the framework to develop a holistic semiconductor ecosystem. So what do we mean by holistic? Identifying the talents, having domestic designs, manufacturing domestic chips, and how are the applications going to be improved through R&D. All these things are the part of this semiconductor constitution. So 18 memorandum of understanding has been signed with leading universities and colleges in Telangana. And what is the aim is to align with the T-chips 4-pillar strategy, the 4-pillar we just discussed. And the initiatives include integrating semiconductor training into the curriculum, setting up design labs, and connecting students and faculty to global research and innovation networks. So what is a semiconductor? Semiconductor is a material whose electrical conductivity is between the insulator and the conductor. Basically, what happens is that when we have free electrons, the conductivity is better. So to get the free electrons, what is the amount of energy we give is what we call it as energy gap. So this energy gap is very lesser in terms of conductors, where a less amount of energy will excite the free electrons. But we go to the insulator, the amount of energy required will be very high, such that they don't conduct. The production of free electrons would be very tough. But semiconductor is in between, somewhere in between these two energy gaps. So giving a proper amount of energy will convert a semiconductor into a conductor. So that is what is about this semiconductors. Its conductivity can be controlled by various factors like temperature, light, impurities, which is what we call it as doping, p-type semiconductors and n-type semiconductors, or by applying electric fields. What is a common element we usually use for semiconductor manufacturing purposes is silicon. That is why there is a place called as Silicon Valley. So where this manufacturing of semiconductors based applications are higher. It forms the foundation of modern electronics. So where do we use these semiconductors? We use these semiconductors in electronic gadgets. Everywhere electronics is used, we mean the semiconductors are used there. It allows the device to process, store, and transmit information, and most importantly, at less energy requirement. So that is a major concept. The energy requirement will be very less, and also the size of the instruments we use, the size of the semiconductor instruments are lesser compared to the electrical instruments. That is why we are preferring semiconductors. The energy efficiency, the size, these two are one of the major advantages of using semiconductor devices. So the application consumer electronics like smartphones, laptops, TVs, tablets, smart wearables. Today we have rings, we have watches. So these are the examples of smart wearables. And for computing and data like microprocessor chips, memory chips, data centers, even AI hardware is constituted by these semiconductors. So automobiles, electrical vehicles, e-vehicles, where we need sensors, where we need all the forms of automation, we need semiconductors. And then the telecommunication technologies like 5G networks, optical fiber systems, these places also we are in need of semiconductors. And most importantly, healthcare. Today, digital health is of trend, and medical imaging equipments, diagnostic devices, implants, everywhere we are in need of semiconductors. And what are the initiatives with respect to semiconductors in our country? So India Semiconductor Mission is one of the major initiatives with respect to semiconductor and how we are going to use them in the future. So it has been launched on December 2021, and the purpose is to develop a robust semiconductor and display manufacturing ecosystem in India. So, what is a nodal agency? Very important. Who is the nodal agency for this national or India Semiconductor Mission? Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. So, the nodal ministry is very important concept. Next is we have modified program for semiconductor and display fabrication ecosystem. The launch date is May 31st, 2023, and the purpose is to invite applications for setting up semiconductor and display fabrication within India, because we are now importing technologies, and if it is manufactured within our country, there are so many advantages. The import dependency will reduce, and more jobs, reduction in the prices of the goods, and these all are the advantages of having domestic fabrication setup. And this offers up to 50% fiscal support for projects cost. So that is one advantage. It's an incentive, it's a support. And production linked incentive scheme, very important. Production linked incentive scheme, it was launched on 2022. Production linked incentive scheme is one of the major scheme which supports secondary sector. So secondary sectors are supported through production linked incentives. So launch date is March 2020, and what is the purpose? To incentivize domestic manufacturing and reduce import dependency across various sectors. And for semiconductor manufacturing also we have production linked incentive. Apart from that, we have something called as design linked incentive, and this is launched in 2021. This supports the domestic companies and startups and MSMEs in semiconductor design. So this will foster innovation and self-reliance in terms of chip designs. And we will be discussing a prelims question based on that. The first statement says, this is a question about semiconductors, and it is asking which of the following is correct. So first statement, the electrical conductivity of a semiconductor can be altered only by introducing impurities and cannot be significantly affected by temperature or light. Silicon, a commonly used semiconductor, is crucial for modern electronics because it allows devices to process, store and transmit information efficiently. So out of these two statements, first statement is not correct because the conductivity of the semiconductor can be manipulated or significantly affected by impurities and also temperature, light along with the electric fields. So the first statement is not correct and second statement is correct. So answer is 2 only. Now we will discuss the second topic of today, that is UPSC at 100 from colonial roots to constitutional pillar. UPSC, the examination which we are all thriving for, which we are all trying for, aspiring for, and that is this Union Public Service Commission, the top recruiter of our country. So about this UPSC, it's a constitutional body, and now we are going to discuss its transition from the British era to the present independent India. So historical evolution, talking about it, it was established as Public Service Commission in 1926 under the Government of India Act of 1919. It was first established in 1926 under the Government of India Act of 1919. Later it was renamed as Federal Public Service Commission, and it remained the same from 1937 to 1950. And it was established under the Government of India Act of 1935. Later, after the Constitution being implemented, it became Union Public Service Commission from the 1950 onwards and became a constitutional body, and it adopted the constitution, and the article within the constitution is from article 315 to 323. What is the colonial background and the significance? This is something we should know. Under English East India Company, the recruitment was just mercantile in nature. So they just recruited writers and merchants. It was not an administrative recruitment. After the battles of Plassey and Buxar, the British crown came into picture and it became administrative in nature, political in nature. So transition, from political administrative authority, creating need for a structured civil service. So the evolution of civil services, it was patronage based appointments, but after the constitution coming into picture, it is merit based competitive exam. This is a modern UPSC today, the merit based competitive exam. So what is a constitutional mandate? So according to Article 320, UPSC should conduct examination for the appointment of union and state services. And the function state services, you can wonder how state services, what UPSC can do is under the request of the states, they can appoint joint public service commission. They can form a joint public service commission. And also the recruitment to all India services, central services and defense services are also done by the Union Public Service Commission. And most importantly, they advise, which means their advices are not binding on the government. This is very important. Are the advices of UPSC or the recommendations of UPSC binding? No, they are advisory in nature. This is because the parliament is sovereign. That is the reason. And service matters, promotions and disciplinary actions. It doesn't stop only with the recruitment, and even beyond the recruitment, UPSC has its hold. The significance, it ensures impartiality, meritocracy and federal balance. So this is one of the best example how UPSC helps in federal balance, the All India service. What are the other constitutional provision with respect to UPSC? So the range is very important. You should know from 315 to 323. If there is any article, it is about UPSC. And part 14 of Indian Constitution, this is about the Union Public Service Commission. And composition, chairman and other members, and number of members decided by the president. And also the terms and condition, the tenure specifically, 6 years or until the age of 65, whichever is earlier. So if the person has become a chairman or a member of UPSC at the age of 63, and at 65 the person would retire. If at all the person is becoming a member at 59, so within 6 years he will retire irrespective of him not becoming 65 at the time. So whichever is earlier, that would be the tenure. And removed only by the president on the grounds of misbehavior, and this is done after the Supreme Court's inquiry. And what are the limitations? They are advisory in nature, not binding. That's why I told you, they are advisory in nature. And they have power, they have certain responsibilities, but their influence over the government, it's just advisory. And the government can reject its advice, but they should submit the reason before the president, before the parliament, why did they reject the advice. And we will see the question based on this. Consider the following statement regarding the evolution of Union Public Service Commission. The Public Service Commission in India was first established in 1926 under the Government of India Act of 1919. The Federal Public Service Commission, which existed between 1937 and 1950, became the Union Public Service Commission after the Constitution came into force. Both the statements are right, both 1 and 2 are right. This is option C and this is option D. Both the statements are right. It was first established in 1919 as Public Service Commission. Then according to 1935 Act, it became Federal Public Service Commission. Then according to the Constitution, it became Union Public Service Commission. This is a potential question because UPSC, the recruiter whom you are writing the exam for is reaching a century, is entering into the next century, and this is a potential question. So this topic is very important. And next is a very important and interesting topic we will discuss, like how clustering of maize together can improve their insect resistance. Through this, we will understand how the plants also have an ability to communicate among themselves. So they don't communicate through sounds, but they have a mode of communication among themselves, and we'll see that. So recently, the research has been done in China, and they have collaborated with Netherlands and Switzerland, And they found out that when these maize plants are clustered, that are planted together, they have a form of chemical way of communication which will increase their pest resistance. And we are going to see what is that. So, researchers from China, Netherlands, and Switzerland found that maize release a chemical volatile component called as linalool. So, this linalool, when specifically when attacked by insects, this chemical is released, and this chemical acts as a warning signal, and this triggers this jasmonate, in the roots. And this, what happens is that this will ensure that the plant's pest resistance increases, the defense mechanisms are more strengthened. So the beneficial microbes leading to salicylic acid pathway in the neighboring plants. The result, broad spectrum resistance, is seen in these plants, like pest, diseases, etc., are seen in these plants. So what is the relevance? From this we are understanding plant to plant communication. There is this concept called as wood wide web. This is also a very important concept. This is again a form of communication. What is wood wide web is that the plants specifically communicate through roots, and when there is a gap, this is filled by a mycorrhizal fungi. So mycorrhizal fungi help in terms of this root-root communication, which is called as a wood wide web. Similar way, here also there is this release of chemical volatile components, and this is helping in the alerting. This is a signal, and this signal alerts the neighboring plants, and those plants save themselves from the pest attack. So the plant's hormones like jasmonates, it's a stress response, salicylic acid, disease resistance are all understood through this experiment. And what is a soil microbe interaction? Plant soil feedback mechanisms will improve the resilience. But what is the issue is that when defense is increased, the growth is decreasing. This is a major issue. So it's a key ecological principle. When they are trying to protect the plant, the breeding, the reproduction that is happening in the plant will be kept under hold. So what happens? What would be the impact? The harvest will not be as expected. The pest resistance will increase, but harvest will not be as expected. So fall armyworm, this is one of the major cause of pest disease in terms of plants. It's an invasive pest and now present in India also. But one major issue with respect to India is that we are not fan of genetically modified plants. And recently we saw in a current affair why India is resisting US corn imports. The major reason we cite is that we are not allowing genetically modified plants. And that is a major issue right now because we have this pest, but we are not a fan of genetically modified corn. So let's see what happens. The opportunities with respect to this is that this is a sustainable pest management. Instead of using pesticide, or we are instead of going to the genetically modified plants, we can see that it's a form of sustainable agriculture. Just by planting the plants closer to each other, we are increasing the pest resistance. But you should always keep the negative aspect where the harvest might reduce. And also it is seen as a solution for climate resilience because it helps to counter projected maize yield decline up to 24%. So that is one of the advantage here. Bioeconomy potential, instead of external application of linalool or breeding linalool sensitive maize hybrids, that is a bioeconomy potential here. And agroecology, where agriculture and ecosystem conservation comes hand in hand because it reinforces the concept of natural pest defense and crop microbe synergy. So that is why it is an important concept in agroecology. But what are the challenges? Yield penalty, because stronger the defense is, reduced the growth is. And scalability, this is a lab finding, but how will that work in a real time situation? That's a very big question because diverse pests, climates, and soil, this we will only understand when we are trying it in a large scale. And regulatory hurdles, approving of gene edited or engineered crops in India is a hurdle right now. And farmer adaptation, farmers may resist this because yield is uncertain. Because when we talk about sustainable development, it has three pillars: the society, the economy, and the environment. You're not supposed to compromise any of these. And we'll see the question regarding this. So, jasmonats in plants are primarily associated with defense against insects and environmental stresses. Linalool is a synthetic pesticide compound recently developed for maize protection. So, first statement is right, but second statement, it is not a synthetic pesticide. The plant themselves release this volatile component called as linalool when they are infected by pest. So, one only is the right answer, two is not the right statement. Next, most important, one of the most important concept, not just for UPSC, even for our health, World Heart Day. So, balanced meals, regular checkups, an expert says that fighting at heart diseases begins at home. And most importantly, the pregnant women are more at risk compared to other population. So, we will see about this World Heart Day. So, we all say listen to your heart. Listening to your heart is very important because it is very important for the physical health. And the date, when do we, have this World Heart Day? It is on 29th September annually, and it was established in 1999 by the World Heart Federation. And the purpose is to raise awareness regarding the cardiovascular diseases, the risk factors, and to promote healthy lifestyles. And this theme, the annual focus on prevention, healthy living, and reducing premature heart deaths. And what is the significance? It highlights global cardiovascular burden. It encourages prevention. See, prevention is better than cure is one of the most important concept we should understand, specifically when it comes to health, because health is a very costly affair. And there are certain situations where even if you are ready to give so much money, the diseases or the impacts cannot be reversed. So, in that case, prevention is always better than cure when it comes to physical health. And detection and management, this is also one of the most important significance according to this World Heart Day. World Health Organization's findings, cardiovascular diseases are the leading cause of death globally today, mostly because of lifestyle. We have a sedentary lifestyle. We are very comfortable. So, what happens is that we lead ourselves to these diseases, the non-communicable diseases. An estimated 19.8 million people died from cardiovascular disease in 2022 alone. And they say that 32% of all global deaths, and of these deaths, 85% were due to heart attack and stroke. So, heart attack and stroke, we should understand what is heart attack and stroke. So, when the blood clots, and specifically when there is a cholesterol, and that is starting to move in the blood, and this might go and block a blood vessel that is supplying blood to either heart or brain. If it is blocking the blood vessel that is going to the brain, we call it a stroke, and this might lead to paralysis. And if it is blocking the blood vessel that is supplying blood to heart, we call it as myocardial infarction or heart attack. So, over 3/4 of cardiovascular deaths take place in low and middle income country because the nutritional composition. So, when we talk about malnutrition, we only speak about non-availability of food, but this is also related to the nutritional deficiency in the food, the composition of carbohydrate and proteins and other minerals. So, low income and middle income countries have high carbohydrate ratio in the food, this leading to cardiovascular diseases in those countries. Out of 18 million premature deaths under the age of 70 due to non-communicable diseases in 2021, at least 38% they are saying it is because of cardiovascular diseases. The National Institute of Health USA is stating certain facts that the cardiovascular disease rate in India is 272 per 100,000. The global number is 235, almost 40 members above the global average. High risk states Kerala, Punjab, Tamil Nadu, where there is high cholesterol and blood pressure. The major conditions include acute coronary syndrome, and this is myocardial infarction, hypertensive and rheumatic heart disease, and the trends, coronary artery disease. So, this artery supplies to the heart, And migrants and urban Indians are at higher risk, 21 percentage. Non-diabetes 11 percentage, 21 percentage of diabetics. This is very important. Urbanization is leading to health diseases because of the change in timings, the disturbance of circadian rhythm, consumption of more fast food, sedentary lifestyle. All these can lead to coronary artery disease. So prevention before onset, how can we manage, is having a balanced diet. One is balanced diet, and second one is exercise. So physical activity and balanced diet, these two can save us from so many types of issues in the body. So even mental health, this also can be taken care by balanced diet and exercise. More fruits, veggies, whole grains, less salt, sugar, unhealthy fats. Most of the fast foods, most of the fried foods we consume are of very high amount with respect to salt, sugar, and unhealthy fats. The processed foods I'm talking about. And the exercise and weight, at least 150 minutes per week. Maintain healthy BMI, basal metabolic index. And avoid habits, no smoking, limit alcohol. So these are the habits that has to be avoided. And sleep and stress, very important. 7 to 8 hours of rest is mandatory. And we can manage this with yoga and meditation. And health checkup and risk control, very important. Above certain age, they are saying regular screening from 20 is mandatory, because we believed these cardiovascular diseases are supposed to come after the age of 40. No, now even 25-year-old are losing their life because of cardiovascular diseases. So regular screening from the age of 20, managing the blood pressure, sugar and cholesterol level, and obesity, they are all the ways to prevent. But now the diagnosis is done, and we are now aware that maybe there is a chance of cardiovascular disease. So what has to be done? Lifestyle changes, again lifestyle changes, strict heart healthy food, low salt diet which will control the blood pressure, and regular supervised exercise. And medications for blood pressure, cholesterol, clot prevention, heart failure and arrhythmias has to be done. And the procedures include angioplasty or stent, CABG, valve repair, pacemaker and transplantation. Based on what is the issue and what is the degree of issue, the treatment changes. And rehabilitation includes cardiac rehab with exercise, diet and counseling. And regular checkups has to be done. Once we are diagnosing, and regular checkup becomes mandatory. Whether they are undergoing the procedure or not, regular diagnosis becomes mandatory. And what is a mains question? Very important, because this can be a mains question. India's load with respect to health is like one of the major chunk comes from this non-communicable diseases, or what we call it as lifestyle diseases. And we have the load of diabetes, and this will lead to cardiovascular diseases. Now, what is the question? Cardiovascular disease accounts for over 32% of global deaths, with most occurring in low and middle income countries. Examine the key behavioral and environmental risk factor contributing to cardiovascular diseases and discuss effective measures for prevention and early management. So, they have given the segregation, you have to just address these concepts. So, you can start with what is a cardiovascular disease and what is the composition in India, and why low and middle income countries have more global deaths with respect to cardiovascular diseases. Then talk about the causes of CVD, impacts of CVD, and the prevention and cure related to CVDs. That is how we have to address the answer. Now we have come to the last segment of today's session, the prelims focus. And the first topic is about drip pricing. So one of the major issue with respect to consumer safety. So a dark pattern which mislead the consumer about the final payable amount and undermined informed decision making. You can see this, like if there is a price, let's say 3,500, you might see an asterisk here. So this asterisk hides lots and lots of information. Sometimes you try to purchase a product and they would have put some price, but when you bill them, they will add certain taxes, they will add certain informations which will actually increase the price. So what is the issue here? Now we are not able to take an informed decision. At the bill counter, we are all having some social issues like we can't take it back. So what happens? We end up buying it. So this is a dark pattern. This is intentionally done, and this has a protection, prevention and regulation of dark patterns according to 2023 regulations of 2023. So the legal basis, the rule 7 clause 1 subclause E of the Consumer Protection E-commerce rules 2020, this requires the total price inclusive of all charges and taxes to be displayed upfront. So what is the price you are seeing in the the product near the product should include all the prices. So I will be aware whether I am going to afford it or not, whether I will be able to afford it or not. So that is what is the concept of drip pricing. There it would be 150 rupees, but when you are purchasing it, it would be 200. Now my budget is 150. Now I have to get 200. It should pay 200 rupees, and that might be an issue. Next is Eat Right India Movement. So it is according to FSSAI, and this is to protect the health of the people and the planet by transforming the food ecosystem of the country through a system approach. One of the major contributor of waste is the food industry. So specifically the restaurants, the roadside hotels, all these contribute to these waste. So this Eat Right India movement not just takes care of the health of an individual, but also health of the environment. It's a sustainable form of concept. And what are the three key schemes? Eat safe, eat healthy, and eat sustainable. So it is inspired by focusing on preventive and promotive healthcare under Ayushman Bharat and Poshan Abhiyan. So it is not just for health of us, but also the health of the planet. So eat safe, eat healthy, and eat sustainable. So the last one is Prayas. It is a first of its kind multidisciplinary integrated neuro rehabilitation center. So it is launched at the All India Institute of Ayurveda, Goa, and the nodal ministry is Ministry of Ayush. This is related to neuro, the nervous system we are talking about here. And what is the objectives? It brings together Ayurveda, physiotherapy, yoga, speech therapy, occupational therapy, and modern pediatrics under one roof. It provides a holistic and patient-centered neuro rehabilitation focused on children. The children who are facing developmental issues will be rehabilitated here. So that is the major concept about this Prayas. Now we are seeing a question related to drip pricing, and see the question is talking about incorrect. It means showing a low initial price but adding hidden mandatory charges later. So mandatory charges later during the checkout, and regulators in India and abroad see it as a harmful practice to consumer interest. Since the question is incorrect, but both the statements are correct, so the answer is neither one and not two. So we have come to the end of the session. Thank you so much. Do not forget to subscribe to this channel for relevant information for UPSC, and comment the mains answer, and comment if there is any doubt. Share it to your friends and like this video. Thank you. Have a nice day.